The greatest risk is not taking one, it is failing to understand the risks around you. Welcome to Module 6, Business Principles, Chapter 4, Evaluating the External Environment. In today's rapidly changing world, organizations do not operate in isolation. Every decision, every risk, and every opportunity is shaped by forces outside the organization. As security and risk professionals, our role goes beyond protection. We must anticipate, interpret, and respond to these external forces. This chapter will help you understand how to systematically analyze the environment in which an organization operates and how that analysis directly influences strategy, resilience, and long-term success. Let's begin this journey of seeing beyond the obvious, because what you don't see can impact you the most. To start, let's understand what we mean by the external environment. It includes all factors outside the organization that influence its operations, economic conditions, competition, regulations, technology, and societal trends. As Yogi Berra said, you can observe a lot just by watching. But in security and risk management, observation must go deeper. It must be structured and analytical. In this chapter, we will explore how managers and security professionals identify key external factors, assess their impact, and use that understanding to guide decisions. The goal is simple: reduce uncertainty and make informed, proactive choices. External and internal environments together shape how organizations define their mission and select strategies. External analysis helps anticipate changes, whether it's emerging threats, shifting regulations, or evolving market dynamics. When organizations actively analyze these factors, they are better prepared to adapt and perform. Research consistently shows that firms that engage in structured external analysis achieve stronger financial and operational performance. For security professionals, this means aligning risk management strategies with broader business objectives. In essence, strategy is not created in isolation, it is a response to the environment. Why is external analysis so critical for security professionals? First, it helps us recognize strategic risks, those that arise from changes in the environment, not just internal vulnerabilities. Second, it allows us to understand competitive dynamics, including how threats evolve across industries. Third, it improves decision-making by providing context, helping us prioritize resources where they matter most. Finally, frameworks and structured tools allow us to systematically assess whether an industry or environment presents opportunities or risks. In short, external analysis transforms security from a reactive function into a strategic enabler. Understanding competition is a key part of external analysis. Markets can be broadly classified into 4 types. In perfect competition, many firms operate with low entry barriers and minimal control over prices. In an oligopoly, a few dominant players influence the market significantly. Monopolistic competition involves many firms offering differentiated products. And in a monopoly, a single firm dominates the entire market. For security professionals, the structure of the market affects risk exposure, competitive pressure, and even threat patterns. A key takeaway here is that competitive advantage often comes from offering greater value to customers than rivals, something that applies equally to security services and risk management strategies. Finally, let's look at the macro environment, the broader forces that impact every organization. These are typically grouped into 6 sectors. Economic factors include inflation, employment, and growth trends. Demographic factors cover population characteristics like age, income, and education. Sociocultural factors reflect beliefs, values, and behaviors. Technological factors drive innovation and disruption. Political and legal factors include regulations and policies. And international or global factors involve trade, geopolitics, and cross-border risks. Together, these sectors form the big picture. For security professionals, understanding these dimensions is essential to anticipate risks, identify opportunities, and align strategies with the external reality. The 5 forces framework, developed by Michael Porter, is one of the most powerful tools to analyze industry competition and profitability. It identifies 5 key forces: rivalry among competitors, threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes, and the bargaining power of suppliers and buyers. As security professionals, our task is to identify the key players within each force and evaluate their strength, whether strong, moderate, or weak. The real value lies in understanding how these forces interact. Together, they determine the level of competitive pressure and, ultimately, the profitability and risk exposure of an industry. A strong grasp of these forces allows us to anticipate threats and align our strategies accordingly. Industry rivalry refers to the intensity of competition among existing firms. When rivalry is strong, organizations compete aggressively on price, marketing, innovation, and customer experience. This often reduces profitability and increases pressure on all players. Several factors influence rivalry, such as the number of competitors, industry growth rate, product differentiation, and switching costs. For example, in markets with many similar products and low switching costs, competition becomes intense and margins shrink. For security professionals, high rivalry often means increased operational risks, pressure on costs, and a greater need for efficiency and differentiation. The threat of new entrants refers to how easy or difficult it is for new competitors to enter an industry. When barriers to entry are low, new firms can quickly enter, increasing competition and reducing profitability. Key barriers include economies of scale, brand loyalty, capital requirements, regulatory constraints, and access to distribution channels. If these barriers are high, the threat is low, protecting existing players. But if barriers are weak, industries become more volatile and competitive. From a security perspective, new entrants can disrupt established systems, introduce new risks, and challenge existing controls. Let's look at the remaining 3 forces. First, substitutes. These are alternative products or services that can replace what an industry offers. When substitutes are easily available and affordable, they limit pricing power and increase risk. Next, supplier power. Suppliers have strong power when they can influence prices or quality. This happens when there are few suppliers or when switching costs are high. Finally, buyer power. Customers gain power when they have multiple options, low switching costs, or the ability to negotiate prices. In many industries, the strongest of these forces determines the overall pressure on profitability. Understanding these dynamics helps security professionals anticipate vulnerabilities in supply chains, customer behavior, and operational stability. Once we understand the external environment, the next step is to align strategy with competitive conditions. Organizations must remain flexible, adapting to technological changes, shifting customer expectations, and evolving risks. Key drivers include innovation, cost efficiency, differentiation, and regulatory awareness. Continuous monitoring and analysis are essential to stay ahead. Strategic response involves assessing whether current approaches remain effective and making adjustments when needed. Ignoring industry changes can lead to failure, while timely adaptation can create significant competitive advantage. For security professionals, this means ensuring that risk management strategies evolve in sync with business strategy. Strategic group analysis helps us understand how firms within an industry are positioned relative to each other. Not all competitors are equal. Some follow similar strategies and form strategic groups. These groups compete more directly with each other than with firms outside their group. By mapping these groups based on key factors, such as price, quality, or market focus, we can identify competitive clusters and gaps in the market. This analysis highlights opportunities and threats, showing where competition is intense and where differentiation is possible. For security professionals, it provides insight into where risks are concentrated and how different strategic positions may influence threat exposure. Competitor analysis is about understanding not just who your competitors are, but how they think, act, and evolve. It involves studying their current strategies, objectives, strengths, and assumptions. What are they trying to achieve? Where are they investing? And how are they positioning themselves in the market? Equally important is analyzing their resources and capabilities, what gives them an advantage, and where they may be vulnerable. By connecting these insights, we can anticipate competitor moves and identify potential risks or opportunities. For security professionals, this means staying ahead, not just reacting to threats, but predicting them based on competitor behavior and strategic intent. Key success factors, or KSFs, are the elements that determine whether an organization succeeds in a particular industry. These may include product quality, cost efficiency, technological capability, customer relationships, or regulatory compliance, depending on the industry. The critical question is, what must a firm do exceptionally well to compete effectively? Identifying KSFs helps organizations focus their resources on what truly matters. It also highlights gaps, areas where improvement is essential for survival and growth. For security professionals, KSFs often include resilience, reliability, compliance, and the ability to manage risk proactively. Understanding these factors ensures that security strategies directly support business success. The final step in external analysis is assessing the industry's overall outlook for profitability. This involves bringing together all insights, macro environment, competitive forces, and key success factors to determine whether the industry is attractive. We must ask, how do external forces impact the company? Are competitive pressures increasing or decreasing? And how well is the organization positioned to respond? There are two possible outcomes. If the industry is fundamentally attractive, organizations should invest, innovate, and expand to capture opportunities. If it is unattractive, the focus shifts to protection, defending position, reducing exposure, or even considering exit strategies. For security professionals, this step is critical. It aligns risk management with long-term business direction and ensures informed, strategic decision-making. As we conclude this chapter, let's reflect on the 7 key questions that define effective external environment analysis. We began by understanding macro environment factors, those broad forces shaping industries. We then examined competitive forces and how they determine industry intensity and profitability. We explored drivers of change, identifying what is transforming industries over time. Further, we looked at market positions and how competitors are strategically placed. We analyzed rivals' next moves, anticipating actions through structured competitor analysis. We identified key success factors, the essentials required to survive and excel. And finally, we assessed the industry outlook for profitability, guiding strategic decisions on whether to invest, protect, or exit. The core message is clear. There is no single formula. Effective analysis is always context-driven, requiring clarity, judgment, and continuous awareness. In a world of constant change, it is not the strongest who survive, but those who understand their environment best and adapt with purpose. Thank you for your time and engagement. Stay aware, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay ahead.